Okay, section 6 in chapter 2 is on statement of earnings. And what this is going to do for today, there is not going to be a new formula. It's combining everything we've done in the entire chapter. So you're going to figure out what your gross pay is. Gross pay, remember, is before anything's been taken out. And then you're going to start deducting everything. So you deduct federal, you deduct state, you deduct Social Security, Medicare, medical. I already said state. There might be some other things in there that they'll add in there, like a $20 savings account or something like that. It used to be on one of my paychecks, which I actually got today because it's the 15th of the month. My paycheck from Minot State, I have $200 taken out of that and go right into a savings account that I have specified. The reason for that is so that way I have a built-in savings account. I don't ever see it. It's not like I ever needed it, or if I do need it, it's there. But a lot of times I do that so that way at the end of the year when it's Christmas time, I have money for Christmas presents and don't have to worry about where am I going to come up with the money for it. Okay, so that's something to think about when you're having it. Especially nowadays, most of you, I'm assuming, probably get direct deposit. Is that true? For those of you who work, do you guys get direct deposit or do you still get a physical paycheck?
I have the option, but
yeah, some people have the option, but the problem, like with me, I do direct deposit, and so that way this morning at midnight, both of my checks were in my account, and that way I didn't have to worry about whether or not there was a snowstorm, I couldn't get there, and whether or not I was going to have money in my account for checks to clear or whatnot, okay, or charges to clear.
I didn't get paid for the 22nd.
So you're every 2 weeks. Okay, so right, because I want to make sure everything. Yep, that's a lot of times where mine is too. Okay, so for that particular purpose, for the statement of earnings, what we're going to have is we might have to figure out how much money you make gross, and how much you get subtracted out of all these pieces. Subtract them all, and then what you have left over is how much you get. Okay. Just like your statements. So I know Colin, for instance, works at Marketplace, he told me. You have at the top of your Marketplace stub, which you don't ever have to bring in here. But if you have your Marketplace stub, you would see like, typically what they'll put is how many hours you worked here. And then they'll say times by, let's say your rate was $9.10. I just made it up. I know it's more than that, you told me. And then it would equal this amount right here. And then after that, they'll list out things and they'll say fit. I know Jordan the other day actually had his in his possession, so he's looking at it as we're going through it. Then they might call it SIT. One of mine calls it or abbreviates state income tax as SIT. FIT is federal, state is SIT. And then the other day, Brandon asked me what FICA meant. FICA is Social Security. And I've had some of them abbreviate that or just put FICA. And then med is not medical insurance, that's Medicare. And then if you have medical insurance, they might say med and then INS after that, insurance. Now, what are some of the other things that could be deducted from a paycheck? I already said one of them, a savings account. If you are a person that has had a child that lives with the other half of whatever, you might have to pay child support. Child support comes directly out of your paychecks. It's not like you do that. I know that firsthand because I had to pay child support until my daughter was 18. Okay? So that comes right out of my paycheck. Some of the other things that you can have in there is I have on mine, I have long-term disability. So for instance, if I get hurt and where I can't come back to work, I have a disability insurance built in that comes out. In my school paycheck, I also have annuity, which we'll talk about later on. What an annuity is it's basically a savings account that I give money to a company that uses it in the stock market for retirement. Okay? I cannot access that money like my savings account is at the bank. So that goes into a fund that I'll be able to pull from when I retire. Okay?
So at the end of the year when you buy a tax, then let's say you switch jobs after the year or whatever, Do you file twice or like?
No. You have both of them. At the end of the year, what'll happen is that every employer in the nation is, by law, legally required to give you your statement by the 31st of January. By law, they have to do that. So if you switch jobs halfway through, like for instance, when I went from Glenburn to Minot High, I had 2 different W-2s then. And then I also had one for Minot State, because I also worked there as an adjunct. So I had 3. All you do is you just combine all 3. And then you have to submit all of them. You have to show them.
Submit all 3 of them individually?
No.
Because
You put them all together into one form when you file. So when you fill out your 1040 EZ, you add everything together and everything else, but then the forms that it says to the state, to the federal, whatever, then you'll have 3 different, those pieces, along with just one big form, but those 3 pieces together to send to them, to show that that's how much you made.
What's 586?
Hmm?
What's 586?
Okay, and, sorry Brandon, I'm not looking at how much you,
Okay.
that's all you made? No, just FICA tips. Are you a tipped employee?
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
A
pay
tipped
taxes on your tips?
Yes. When you are a waiter or waitress or something like that, or a tipped employee like that, then you will have to pay Social Security on your tips, because that's part of your earnings. So.
Unless you don't report your tips. Like us. Is that what you guys do? We don't report our tips.
So, anyway, on page 142, here's what it says. It says net pay. You may have additional deductions taken from your group pay for union dues. That's something that I also have too. I belong to a union, teachers union. Okay, that's going to come out of my paycheck soon. Contributions to community funds. Okay, that's kind of one of those annuity things that I was talking about. Savings plans, which that's what I talked about, going right into my savings account. And a retirement account contributions, which again, that's kind of that annuity thing. One other thing that I also have taken out of my paycheck, because my kids are involved in it, is CLC. You guys know what CLC is? The before and after school program at the elementary and at the middle school. Okay, that's what that is. That's where they go. So when my boys get dropped off or they stay late because I'm not there to pick them up immediately right when they get them to school, they go to CLC. I have, because I believe that that helps them, I give extra money to that to help fund that program. So that would be a community fund. The earnings statement attached to your paycheck lists all your deductions, your gross pay, your net pay for the pay period. So when Brandon was showing me his just now, it had everything listed. It had how many hours he worked, what he got per hour, and that told. I never looked at the money part, but I was looking at what was being deducted. Okay, he asked about one specific question, but I never looked at what he makes or whatever, because honestly, I don't care. So for that particular part, usually what they'll say, me personally, here's what's on my paycheck. I have high school math, there's one line. Assistant boys hockey coach, there's another line. And then if I sub in the building for another teacher, I get paid extra for subbing on one of my off hours.
So do you get paid 2 salaries there?
I actually, yes, there's 2 different ones, and what they do is that they add them together to make my total net pay. And then they net pay for the year and stuff like that. Okay? When I coached football, then I would have 3. Because I had football, hockey, and teaching. Okay? Right. Net pay is the amount of money you have left after your employer subtracts all the withholdings and personal deductions for your gross pay. It's sometimes called net income or take-home pay. They do give you a formula, but basically all it is take the gross pay minus everything. Okay? And what you're left over, that's how much you have left and that's how much you get paid. Should you have a negative number? I hope not. That means you owe your business money, and that's probably not going to happen. Okay, so make sure when you're doing this, we should have positive answers. Now, if you go to page 144, I'm going to help you get through this stuff, or at least the first couple. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 of them. on 4 through 8, it says, find the deductions and the net pay. Social Security is 6.2% of the first $97,500. Medicare is 1.45% of all income. Use the tax tables on pages A2 to A5 for federal tax. For problems 4 through 8, the state tax is 2% of the gross pay, and the local tax is 1.5% of the gross pay. So, here's number 4. Number 4 says that Terrence Hall, that's the person's name. This is number 4. His gross pay is $598. So, for instance, I do not know what Terrence does. So in this particular case, he might be salaried, where all they do is they take the salary and divide it by how many paychecks you've had. Remember when we did that?
Wait, so we're giving his monthly, net pay for a month?
For whatever that paycheck says.
That'd be the week, 2 weeks.
Whatever it is. They're already giving you what the net pay is. Or the gross pay. Okay? So now, from Part A. Part A says, fit. What did fit refer to? What was it short for?
Federal income.
Federal income tax. Where did we find the federal income tax? Was that A, multiplied by something, or B, a chart? A chart. Where was the chart at? Page A2 or A through 5. Is Terrence single or married? He's single. And he claims 1. So if I go to the back.
What if you live with a girlfriend, but you're not married? Then are you single?
Yes. Okay? So $598 is between which two dollar amounts? If we go by tens. $590 and $600. Right? And it says that Terrence claims 1. So if I'm back on the back, which I am, and it says $590 to $600 for a single person, number 1, how much money? $65. Are you on A2? Tanner, we're looking between $590 and $600. It's at the bottom of the page.
Look at the top. It's not the first column, it's the second column. Because the first column is 0.
65. That's part A. That was not, all it was looking it up in a chart. Okay? Part B, it says SS. What does SS short for, do you think? Social Security. How much money, or what was the percent for Social Security? 6.2. So in order to find Social Security, you take 598 and you multiply it by 0.062. Now again, that might be tough for some of you because we're forgetting to move our decimals over. All I did was move the decimal 2 spots over to the left. So what is $598 times 0.062? 37 point what? 0.76. So 0.8 if we're rounding to the nearest penny. Okay. Then part C says Medicare. What's the Medicare percent? So 598. Where am I getting the 598 again?
That's his gross pay.
That's the gross pay. Times 0.0145. And because Brandon just told me it's 1.45%. So what's 598 times that number? $8.67. Did anybody else get that? Good. Then it goes on to say for part D, state. And that's all it says. In the directions for this problem, what was the state tax? State. 2, right? 2%. Next page, Brandon. So 598 times 2%. Again, 2% as a decimal is 0.02. What is 598 times 0.02? $11.96. Then it goes on to say local for E. Now, we do not have this. Us as in the state of North Dakota, we do not have a local tax. We could. Some states do, some places do. But in Minot for sure, I know that there's not a local tax that comes out of your paycheck. Otherwise, you would have saw that on your pay stub. It would say local. Okay? So the local percent was 5.5%. No, not 5.5, sorry, 1.5. So what is 598 times 0.015? How much? $8.97. Then, here's the part that it does not tell you. If you look at number 5, and I'm already out of room. This is how these things can get really long. After that, they say medical. Notice that they don't have you figuring out the medical. They just tell you what it is. How much was it in medical that Terrence had to take out? $1,550. Then they go on and say union dues. I call that UD for union dues. How much was union dues? $14. Then it says $6 for other. What could other be?
Food. That's the biggest thing. I've got food on my list.
Okay. Charity, food, apparently. Maybe a disability account like I have. Okay. So they have another of $6. Now I couldn't fit that at the bottom, so I'm just going to insert it right there. So here's what you're going to do. Now that you've got all the pieces, right now you found A through E, plus you have 3 other things that you were deducted for. Now what you do is you take 598 and you start subtracting every single one of those numbers. Okay? With your calculators, you should be able to just keep a running total as I go. Okay? So when I take 598 minus all those pieces, here's a calculator right here for me. It's yellow. School bus yellow, actually. 598 minus 37.08 minus 8.67 minus 11.96 minus 8.97 minus 6 minus 15.5 minus 14 equals.
Did you minus 65?
I minused everything. Oh, I didn't. I forgot 65, didn't I? Okay, now, that's a really good point. Thanks, Brandon, for noticing that. I said all those numbers, then I missed one. If you missed one, is your final answer going to be wrong? Yeah. Okay, so you got to be very careful with doing that. Thanks, Brandon, for catching that. I forgot one. I would have got it way wrong. What'd you guys get? I know some of you did it. What'd you get? $430.82. So Terrence would expect, bless you, to get a paycheck of $430.82. Did anybody else get that, bless you?
Thank you.
Francis and Kylie did. I did too. So if 4 of us got it, we're probably right. Okay? So again, I'm not going to give you very many of these. You already know what they are. They're all on that one page. It's 4 through 8. But the reason why I'm not going to give you very many is because of the fact that you've got to do a lot of stuff to get it. Okay? Do you just give me the net pay? No. No, not if you want full points for it. Okay? So for this assignment alone, it's only 4 through 8, but if you look at number 4 alone, 4 has A, B, C, D, E, and F. That's 6 points just for number 4. Okay? Because the 598 minus all of those. You put 37.08 minus all of them. 598 minus all of them. Okay? Do you want to do another one? Yes? Okay. Number 5. Number 5 says, Julia Defoe, an interior decorator for custom design, is married and claims 1. Each week she pays $38 for medical insurance, $18 for union dues, and $20 for a stock option plan. Now we need to fill in A, B, C, D, and E, and F. How much is her gross pay on number 5? $425. Now it's time to start finding everything. I believe the first one is fit. Is Julia married or single? Married. So you got to go make sure that you're on the married parts, which is A4 and A5. 425 is between which two numbers? 420 and 430. She claims 1. So make sure you're on the 1 column. How much? 21. So that's 8. I got 21 also when I looked it up. Part B says SS. What's the Social Security number that you multiply by? Right. So 425 times 0.062. What'd you guys get? $26.35. Then, the next one, Medicare. Medicare is 425 times 1.45%. What'd you guys get? Kyla, what'd you get? $6.16. Me too. It says 6.1625, but the 2 does not bump the 6 up, does it? No. Then it goes on to say for part D, it says state. What was the state tax for these problems? 2%. So 425 times 0.02. I got $8.50. Then it says local for E. 425. What number are we using for local?
2, right?
0.015.
We're going a bit too fast.
I got $6.38. How did I get the 38? I had to round up because that one gave me 0.375. So again, so far to find A, we had to look it up on a chart. B, we multiplied it by that number. C, we multiplied it by a different rate. D and E, multiplied it by the rates that they say. Now after that, it says medical. Is medical and Medicare the same thing? No. Medicare is for if you're over 65 or if you qualify for like disability and whatnot. Medical is actually your medical insurance if you get hurt. Medicare, again, is for people or persons that are over 65 or people that are wards of the state.
What does that even mean?
Means that they can't provide for themselves, so the state does it. Union dues. How much union dues did Julia have to pay? How much?
20. No.
18.
18. We're on number 5.
$20.
And then others. Did she put any money in the others? 20 bucks. Now, when you're doing this chart later on, when you do 6, 7, and 8 on your own, if they don't have a number in there, you don't have to find it. Okay? If it doesn't give you others, then that person just does not provide or do that. It's not like you have to find it, unless it says it somewhere, but it doesn't. Okay? Now, what do you do with all these numbers? You minus every single one of these out of what number? 425. So on my calculator device, I'm going to start by taking 425, and I'm going to try not to forget one this time. Minus 21. Minus 26.35. Minus $6.16. Minus 8.5. Minus 6.38. Minus 38. Minus 18. Minus 20. Wham. How much money does she have left? I got 280 and 61 cents also. So 280 and 61 cents is what Julia's final paycheck was. Huh? That's F, right. That's the last answer. I just couldn't fit it on the bottom. This is exactly what happens if you work. Okay, I saw Brandon's pay stub, or at least what gets subtracted out. I never saw his money amounts, but that's okay, I don't need to. A couple years ago, I had someone that worked at Grizzlies where he showed me his too. Same thing. I got mine today in the mail for both of the places that I get them from, mine at State and here, and same thing. It tells me how much I'm going to get at the top. That's my gross pay. And then everything gets subtracted out, and then that's my take-home pay or my net pay. Okay? All the pieces that we did up there were everything that we did in previous sections. When we did federal tax, when we did state tax, when we did Medicare and whatnot. The only things that are different are the 3 at the bottom, but the 3 at the bottom are just given to you. They're not, you don't have to figure those out, or they're not being multiplied by anything. Okay? On page 144,
I actually wrote down the ones we did in class.
well, good, because you're in your assignment. We're only going 4 to 8.